The morning sun cast long shadows across Windsor Castle as Prince William reviewed the guest list for the upcoming charity gala. His fingers paused over one particular name that had been added without his knowledge. Laura Lopes, Camilla's daughter from her first marriage, was listed among the invited guests for the prestigious event honoring military veterans. William's jaw tightened as he remembered the recent conversation with his stepmother. Camilla had approached him weeks earlier, requesting that Laura be included in more royal functions. The request had come at an awkward time, just days after Princess Anne had made her position clear about expanding the guest list for formal royal events. "We must be selective about who represents the monarchy at public gatherings," Anne had stated firmly during a private family meeting. "Every face in those photographs will be scrutinized by the press and the public. We cannot afford to dilute the significance of these occasions with extended family members who have no official role." The Princess Royal's words carried weight within the family. As one of the hardest-working royals, Anne's opinions on protocol and public representation were rarely challenged. Her decades of service had earned her respect from both the public and her relatives, making her voice particularly influential in matters of royal appearances. William had found himself caught between loyalty to his father's wife and respect for his aunt's wisdom. The charity gala was particularly important to him as it honored veterans from recent conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq. The event would raise funds for wounded servicemen and their families, a cause close to William's heart due to his own military service. The guest list had been carefully curated to include senior royals, military leaders, and prominent supporters of veteran causes. Each invitation represented not just attendance at a social function, but participation in an event that would be covered extensively by national and international media. The photographs and news coverage would shape public perception of the royal family's commitment to supporting those who had served their country. Camilla had argued that Laura's inclusion would demonstrate the modern, inclusive nature of the contemporary monarchy. As an art curator with her own professional accomplishments, Laura could contribute meaningfully to conversations about the cultural programs being developed for veteran rehabilitation. Her presence would also signal that the royal family embraced all its members, regardless of their formal titles or positions in the line of succession. However, Princess Anne's concerns ran deeper than simple protocol. She had witnessed decades of media storms caused by unclear boundaries around royal participation. Extended family members attending high-profile events often faced intense scrutiny about their relationships, personal lives, and business dealings. This attention could overshadow the charitable purposes of such gatherings and create unwanted distractions from the important work being highlighted. The tension had been building for months. Camilla's children from her first marriage had gradually become more visible in royal circles since their mother's marriage to then Prince Charles. While they maintained their own careers and largely stayed out of the spotlight, there had been subtle pressure to include them in certain family occasions. Laura, in particular, had shown interest in supporting causes related to arts education and military history. Her professional background made her knowledgeable about cultural preservation. She had quietly attended several events related to military heritage sites. These appearances had been positive. No negative press coverage or protocol breaches. William understood his stepmother's desire to see her children more integrated into royal life. The transition to becoming queen consort had brought new responsibilities and opportunities, and it was natural that Camilla would want to share some of these experiences with her family. The challenge lay in balancing this personal wish with the institutional requirements of the monarchy. The Prince of Wales was also aware that his decision would set a precedent for future events. If Laura attended this gala, it would establish an expectation for her inclusion in similar occasions. This could lead to complex situations where other extended family members might seek similar recognition or inclusion in royal functions. As he sat in his Windsor office, William considered the broader implications of the guest list decision. The monarchy was evolving, adapting to changing public expectations while maintaining its essential traditions and dignity. Finding the right balance between modernization and preservation of institutional integrity required careful consideration of each public appearance. The military charity gala represented everything William valued about royal service. It combined honor for those who had sacrificed for their country with practical support for their ongoing needs. The event would raise substantial funds while raising awareness about veteran issues. Most importantly, it would demonstrate the royal family's genuine commitment to supporting servicemen and women beyond mere ceremonial. Acknowledgements. Princess Anne's military connections added another layer of significance to her position on the guest list. As Colonel-in-Chief of numerous military units and a patron of veteran organizations, she understood the importance of maintaining focus on the honorees rather than the royal attendees. Her concern was that expanding the royal presence might shift attention away from the veterans being celebrated. The decision weighed heavily on William as he prepared for what would inevitably be a difficult conversation, whether he supported Camilla's request or upheld Anne's position. His choice would affect family relationships and potentially influence royal protocol for years to come. The guest list for a single event had become a defining moment in the ongoing evolution of the modern monarchy. Outside his window, the ancient stones of Windsor Castle stood as silent witnesses to centuries of royal decisions, each generation facing the challenge of honoring tradition while adapting to the needs of their time. William knew that his choice about Laura's invitation would join the long history of precedents that shaped how the royal family
engaged
with the public and supported the causes they championed. The phone call came on a Tuesday morning while Prince William was reviewing veteran support programs at Kensington Palace. Camilla's voice carried a note of frustration as she addressed the elephant in the room that had been growing between them for weeks. "William, I need to understand your position on Laura's invitation," she began, her tone careful but determined. "The gala is next month, and she's already made arrangements to attend. This last minute uncertainty is becoming quite embarrassing for our family." William set down his papers, knowing this conversation had been inevitable. The charity gala had become a symbol of larger questions about the role of extended royal family members in official functions. His response would echo far beyond a single event, potentially affecting relationships and protocols for years to come. "Camilla, I appreciate your position, but I need to consider the broader implications," William replied diplomatically. "This event honors our military veterans, and every aspect of it should reflect that priority. Anne has raised some valid concerns about maintaining focus on the cause rather than expanding royal participation." The mention of Princess Anne caused a noticeable pause in the conversation. Camilla had never fully warmed to her husband's sister, finding Anne's directness, sometimes harsh, and her protective attitude toward royal traditions occasionally inflexible. The two women maintained cordial relations in public, but privately. Their different approaches to royal duty often created tension. "Anne has her opinions." "Certainly," Camilla responded, choosing her words carefully. "But I believe we should consider what's best for the monarchy's future, not just its past. Laura has contributed significantly to cultural preservation causes, and her expertise could benefit the discussions about veteran rehabilitation through arts programs." William recognized the validity in both arguments. Laura Lopes had indeed built a respectable career in art curation, and her knowledge could enhance conversations about therapeutic programs for injured servicemen. However, Princess Anne's decades of military connections and veteran advocacy gave her perspective considerable weight in matters related to such events. The underlying tension reflected broader changes within the royal family structure. Since becoming king, Charles had spoken about streamlining the monarchy, focusing public attention on working royals who undertook official duties on behalf of the crown. This vision created natural questions about where Camilla's children fit into the evolving institutional framework. Laura and her brother Tom had largely remained outside royal duties, maintaining their own careers and private lives. They attended family celebrations and occasionally appeared at significant royal events, but they had never taken on official patronages or represented the crown in formal capacities. Their position remained somewhat ambiguous in the public eye. The charity gala represented a test case for how this ambiguity would be resolved. Including Laura would signal a more inclusive approach to royal family participation. potentially opening doors for her greater involvement in future events. Excluding her would reinforce traditional boundaries about who could represent the monarchy at high-profile public gatherings. Princess Anne's influence on William's thinking extended beyond protocol concerns. The Princess Royal had been a mentor figure during his military service, offering practical advice about balancing royal duties with military commitments. Her example of dedicated, focused royal service had shaped his own approach to public responsibilities. Anne's military experience also informed her perspective on veteran causes. She understood the culture of military service and the specific needs of those transitioning back to civilian life. Her concern was that the media attention would focus on royal family dynamics rather than the substantive issues affecting veteran welfare and rehabilitation. Meanwhile, Camilla felt increasingly isolated in her position. As queen consort, she was still establishing her role within the family hierarchy and public expectations. Including her daughter in significant events demonstrate that her family had found its place within the broader royal structure. While exclusion might suggest ongoing tensions or incomplete acceptance, the press had begun to notice the uncertainty around the guest list. Royal correspondents, always alert to family tensions, had started asking questions about attendance at upcoming events. The palace press office had provided only standard responses about guest lists being confirmed closer to event dates. But speculation was beginning to build. William knew that whatever decision he made would be scrutinized and interpreted as a statement about family unity, modernization efforts, and his own leadership style as heir to the throne. The media would analyze every aspect of the event, from seating arrangements to conversation partners. Looking for signs of favor or discord, the charitable purpose of the gala added complexity to the situation. The event aimed to raise funds for veteran housing programs and educational support for military families. Corporate sponsors and major donors would attend, expecting to meet senior royals and discuss their continued support for veteran causes. The royal presence served not just ceremonial functions, but practical fundraising objectives. Laura's potential attendance had been discussed among some veteran advocacy groups. With mixed reactions, some welcomed the possibility of engaging with someone who understood arts-based therapy programs, while others preferred to keep focus on traditional military leadership and established royal patrons of veteran causes. As the conversation with Camilla continued, William found himself weighing personal relationships against institutional responsibilities. His stepmother had been supportive during difficult periods, particularly around his mother's death and his father's health challenges. However, his primary obligation was to preserve the dignity and effectiveness of royal charitable work. The decision was becoming more complex as wedding plans for other royal family members were being discussed. Questions about extended family inclusion would inevitably arise for future celebrations and state occasions. The precedent set by the Veteran Gala could influence protocols for events ranging from garden parties to state banquets. Princess Anne strode through the corridors of St. James's Palace with her characteristic purposeful gait. Her mind focused on the upcoming meeting with Prince William. She had requested this private discussion after learning that Camilla continued to pressure for Laura's inclusion in the Windsor Veterans Gala. Despite the family's previous conversations about protocol, the princess, loyal, carried a folder containing correspondence from veteran organizations, military commanders, and charity leaders involved in the event. Their feedback had been consistently clear. They valued the dignity and focus that traditional royal participation brought to their causes. Extended family involvement, while potentially positive, risked diluting the ceremonial importance of royal patronage. Anne's military aide had briefed her on similar situations in other European monarchies, where expanded family participation in state functions had occasionally led to protocol confusion and media focus on personalities rather than causes. The research reinforced her conviction that clear boundaries served both the monarchy and the lonarchy. As she entered William's private office, Anne noted the signs of stress around her nephew's eyes. The weight of balancing family harmony with institutional responsibility had clearly been taking its toll. She appreciated that he faced the delicate task of maintaining relationships while making decisions that would affect royal protocol for years to come. William, I wanted to discuss the Veterans Gala once more before any final decisions are made, Anne began. Settling into the chair across from his desk, I've been in communication with several military leaders who will attend, and their perspective might be helpful. The Prince of Wales leaned back in his chair, grateful for his aunt's direct approach. Anne had always been someone he could count on for honest advice, even when it involved difficult family dynamics. Her experience managing similar situations over decades of royal service had proven invaluable during challenging periods. What are they saying, Anne? William asked, though he suspected he already knew the direction of her feedback. They appreciate the personal nature of royal interest in veteran causes, she replied, opening her folder to reference specific comments. General Morrison mentioned that the intimate scale of royal participation makes veterans feel genuinely valued rather than part of a public relations. Colonel Harris expressed concern that expanding the guest list might make the event feel more like a society gathering than a focused tribute to military service. Anne's documentation went beyond personal opinions to include practical considerations. The seating arrangements at Windsor had been carefully planned to facilitate meaningful conversations between veterans, their families, and royal patrons familiar with military culture. Additional family members would require protocol adjustments that might disrupt these planned interactions. The Princess Royal also raised concerns about media coverage expectations. Royal correspondents had specific protocols for covering events involving working royals. Understanding the balance between documenting royal support and respecting veteran privacy. Extended family participation could attract different types of press attention, potentially including coverage more focused on family dynamics than charitable purposes. There's also the matter of precedent, Anne continued, her voice taking on the authoritative tone that had made her one of the most respected working royals. If we expand participation for this event, every future occasion will face similar pressures. Military charities, arts organizations, environmental groups, they all organize events hoping for royal patronage. Clear guidelines help everyone understand expectations. William nodded, recognizing the practical wisdom in his aunt's position. The royal family supported hundreds of charitable organizations, and each one sought maximum royal involvement for their events. Without consistent protocols, the demands would quickly become unmanageable, potentially reducing the effectiveness of royal charitable work. However, William also understood Camilla's position as queen consort. Trying to establish her family's place within royal structures, the integration of stepfamilies had become increasingly common in modern British society, and the monarchy's approach to such situations influenced public perceptions of royal relevance and adaptability. I appreciate your perspective, and I know it comes from genuine concern for effective charitable work, William said carefully. But I also need to consider family unity and Camilla's position as queen consort. This situation extends beyond a single event to questions about how the modern monarchy includes extended family members. The Princess Royal had anticipated this response. Her own approach to royal duty had always prioritized institutional effectiveness over personal preferences. But she understood that family relationships required careful management. The key was finding solutions that preserved both charitable focus and family harmony. Perhaps we could consider alternative ways for Laura to support veteran causes, Anne suggested thoughtfully. She could attend the private reception afterward. We could arrange for her to visit some of the rehabilitation programs that benefit from the gala's fundraising. This would demonstrate family support without compromising the event's protocol. This suggestion offered a potential middle ground that William had not previously considered. Laura could maintain her connection to veteran causes while preserving the traditional structure of the main event. The approach would also create opportunities for her to develop genuine expertise in areas where she could make meaningful contributions, and continued developing the compromise idea. Drawing from her experience managing similar protocol challenges over the years, the royal family had successfully balanced tradition with modernization by creating new ways for family members to support causes without disrupting established ceremonial frameworks. The private reception approach has worked well in other situations, she explained. It allows for personal connections and meaningful conversations without the formal protocol requirements of the main event. Laura could meet veterans and their families in a more relaxed setting where her arts background might lead to genuinely helpful discussions about therapeutic programs. William saw the wisdom in this approach. It addressed Camilla's concerns about family inclusion while maintaining the focused character of the main event that Princess Anne and the military leaders valued. The solution would also set a helpful precedent for future events, providing a framework for extended family participation that preserved institutional clarity. The conversation had shifted from debate about inclusion versus exclusion to creative problem-solving about different levels of participation. This reflected the kind of thoughtful adaptation that had helped the monarchy navigate changing social expectations while maintaining its essential character and effectiveness. As their discussion continued, both William and Anne recognized that the Veterans Gala had become a catalyst for developing clearer guidelines about extended family involvement in royal charitable work. The solution they developed would influence protocols for years to come, affecting how the monarchy balanced tradition with the practical realities of modern family structures. The tension reached a breaking point during what should have been a routine family dinner at Clarence's house. King Charles had called the gathering to discuss upcoming royal engagements, but the conversation quickly turned to the unresolved issue of Laura's participation in the Windsor Veterans Gala. Camilla's frustration had been building for weeks, and she could no longer maintain diplomatic silence about what she saw as unfair treatment of her daughter. "I fail to understand why my family continues to be treated as second-class members of this household," Camilla said, her voice steady but carrying unmistakable emotion. "Laura has conducted herself with dignity in every royal setting, yet she faces exclusion based on arbitrary protocol decisions that seem designed to keep my children at arm's length." Charles looked uncomfortable, as the family dynamics he had hoped to navigate quietly became the center of direct confrontation. As king, he needed to balance his roles as monarch, husband, and father figure to William. The situation required diplomatic skills that went beyond constitutional responsibilities. To address deeply personal relationships, William felt the weight of being positioned between his father's wife and his own convictions about royal protocol. The decision about the Veterans Gala had evolved from a simple guest list question into a defining moment for family relationships and institutional boundaries. His response would affect not just one event, but the framework for royal participation in charitable work for years to come. "Camilla, this isn't about second-class treatment," William replied, maintaining his composure despite the emotional charge in the room. "The decision reflects careful consideration of what best serves the veterans being honored and the charitable objectives of the event." Princess Anne's guidance comes from decades of experience with military causes and understanding what makes royal support most effective. The mention of Princess Anne's influence clearly irritated Camilla, who had never fully accepted her sister-in-law's authoritative voice in family decisions. The two women represented different generations and approaches to royal duty, with an emphasizing traditional protocol and institutional preservation while Camilla favored adaptation and inclusion of modern family structures. Anne's perspective deserves respect, Camilla acknowledged through gritted teeth. But so does the reality that this family has evolved. My children have shown nothing but loyalty and discretion, yet they remain perpetually on the outside of meaningful participation. How does this serve the monarchy's need to appear relevant to contemporary families? King Charles attempted to mediate, understanding both positions, but recognizing the institutional constraints that limited his ability to simply override established protocols. His own accession to the throne had required careful navigation of tradition and modernization, making him sympathetic to the challenges his family members faced in finding their proper roles. "Perhaps we need to step back and consider the broader framework for family participation," Charles suggested diplomatically. "This single event has become symbolic of larger questions about how the monarchy includes extended family members while maintaining the focused character of royal charitable work." The dinner table conversation had attracted the attention of household staff, who discreetly continued their duties while remaining aware of the unusual tension. among family members typically careful about displaying unity. The breach of normal diplomatic protocols signaled the depth of frustration that had been building. Around these unresolved questions, William recognized that his decision about Laura's invitation had become a test of his leadership, style, and his relationship with family members. As heir to the throne, his choices would set precedents for how future conflicts between institutional requirements and family desires would be resolved. The weight of this responsibility influenced every aspect of his consideration. Laura herself had remained largely silent throughout the family discussions, aware that she had become the center of a conflict that extended far beyond her personal desires to attend royal events. Her position was particularly delicate because any appearance of pushing for inclusion might damage her reputation for discretion, while complete withdrawal might suggest she accepted exclusion from family activities. The veterans who would be honored at the gala remained unaware of the family tensions surrounding the event planning. Their focus was on the opportunity to meet with royals who understood military service and could advocate for continued support of veteran programs. The irony was not lost on William that an event meant to honor service and sacrifice had become a source of family division. Camilla's emotional investment in the issue reflected broader challenges she faced as queen consort. Unlike previous queens, who had married into the family young and grown into their roles gradually, she had entered royal life as a mature woman with adult children and established relationships. Integrating her family into royal structures required sensitivity to both personal bonds and institutional requirements. The conversation had reached a point where continued discussion risked escalating into permanent damage to family relationships. William could see that his stepmother felt genuinely hurt by what she perceived as rejection of her family, while he remained convinced that maintaining protocol boundaries served everyone's long-term interests. "I propose we table this discussion until tomorrow," Charles intervened, recognizing the need to prevent further escalation. "Perhaps a night's reflection will help us find a solution that serves both family harmony and institutional requirements. This issue deserves careful consideration rather than heated debate." As the family members prepared to leave, the unresolved tension hung heavy in the air. William knew that his next conversation with Camilla would be crucial in determining whether they could find a path forward that preserved both family relationships and royal protocol. The Veterans Gala had become much more than a charitable event. It had become a test of the monarchy's ability to balance tradition with the complexities of modern family life. The following morning would bring new pressures. As media speculation about the guest list continued to build and veteran organizations began confirming their attendance, whatever solution the family reached would need to address not just immediate concerns, but the precedent it would set for future decisions about extended family participation in royal charitable work. The final decision came during a private meeting in William's study at Kensington Palace, where he had invited Camilla for what both knew would be their last conversation before the guest list was finalized. The morning light filtered through tall windows as William prepared to deliver news that would disappoint his stepmother, but align with his convictions about royal protocol and charitable effectiveness. "Camilla, I've given this situation extensive consideration, including conversations with Princess Anne, discussions with veteran organization leaders, and reflection on the broader implications for royal charitable work," William began, his tone respectful but resolute. "After weighing all factors, I've decided that Laura will not be included in the main Veterans Gala event." The Queen Consort's face showed no surprise. As if she had expected this outcome despite her hopes for a different resolution, her disappointment was evident. But she maintained the composed dignity that had served her well throughout decades of public scrutiny and family negotiations. "I suspected this would be your decision," Camilla replied quietly. "While I disagree with your reasoning, I understand that you believe this serves the institution's interests. I only hope that future decisions will consider the human cost of such rigid protocol adherence." William appreciated her measured response, knowing that a more emotional reaction could have damaged their relationship permanently. The grace with which she accepted his decision demonstrated the diplomatic skills that had helped her navigate the complex transition from controversial figure to accepted family member and now queen consort. However, I want to propose an alternative that I hope addresses your concerns about family inclusion, William continued, implementing the compromise solution he had developed with Princess Anne's guidance. Laura will be invited to the private reception following the main event, where she can meet with veterans and their families in a more informal setting. This approach honors both the formal protocol requirements of the gala and the importance of family participation. Compromise offered Camilla a way to save face while giving Laura meaningful access to veteran causes without disrupting the main events. Traditional character. The private reception would allow for genuine conversations about arts-based therapy programs and cultural preservation, projects that connected to veteran welfare. Initiatives. Camilla considered the proposal, recognizing it as a reasonable middle ground that acknowledged her family's position without compromising William's authority over event planning. The solution would also establish a framework for future situations where extended family members sought involvement in royal charitable activities. That seems like a thoughtful compromise, she acknowledged, though her tone carried traces of disappointment about the original exclusion. Laura will appreciate the opportunity to contribute to veteran causes, even if not in the manner we initially hoped. I trust this arrangement will allow her to develop genuine expertise in areas where she can make meaningful contributions. The agreement represented more than a solution to immediate tensions. It established precedent for how the royal family would handle similar situations in the future. Extended family members could participate in royal charitable work through alternative channels that preserved institutional protocols, while enabling personal involvement and family unity. William felt relief that they had found a resolution that avoided permanent damage to family relationships while maintaining the principles he believed essential for effective royal service. The compromise demonstrated leadership, skills that balanced competing interests without abandoning core convictions about institutional responsibilities. News of the final guest list arrangements spread quickly through royal circles, with most family members expressing approval for the diplomatic solution. King Charles was particularly pleased that his son had navigated the complex situation without creating lasting family divisions while upholding royal protocols he considered essential for institutional credibility. Princess Anne privately congratulated William on his handling of the situation, recognizing that he had successfully defended protocol principles while finding creative ways to address legitimate family concerns. The outcome demonstrated the kind of thoughtful leadership that would serve him well as future king facing similar challenges between tradition and adaptation. The veteran organizations involved in the gala expressed satisfaction with the final arrangements, appreciating that the main event would maintain its focused character while acknowledging the value of extended family support through alternative channels. Several military leaders privately noted that the solution demonstrated mature decision-making that prioritized charitable objectives over family politics. Laura herself accepted the compromise graciously, understanding that her position in royal family structures required flexibility and patience as traditions evolved to accommodate modern family realities. Her inclusion in the private reception offered opportunities to build genuine relationships with veteran causes that could lead to meaningful long-term involvement. The media coverage of the final arrangements was generally positive, with royal correspondents noting the diplomatic resolution of what could have become a significant family conflict. The compromise was interpreted as evidence of William's growing confidence as a leader, capable of balancing competing interests while maintaining institutional integrity. As preparations for the Veterans Gala moved forward, the earlier tensions gave way to focus on the event's charitable purposes and the veterans who would be honored. The guest list controversy had been resolved in a way that preserved both family relationships and royal protocols, allowing everyone to concentrate on supporting the military families and veteran programs that formed the event's true purpose. The resolution also established William's authority in making difficult decisions, That affected family dynamics while serving broader, institutional interests. His handling of the situation demonstrated leadership qualities that would be essential as he prepared for his eventual role as king, showing he could navigate complex, personal, and protocol challenges with diplomatic skill and principled decision-making. The experience had strengthened, rather than damaged, family relationships, proving that difficult conversations and principled disagreements could lead to creative solutions when handled with mutual respect and commitment to finding common ground that served everyone's legitimate interests. The Windsor Castle Veterans Gala unfolded with the dignity and purpose that Prince William had envisioned from the beginning. The Great Hall was filled with military heroes, their families, and the carefully selected guests who understood the significance of honoring those who had served their country. The evening's success validated William's decision to maintain traditional protocol, while demonstrating the power of focused royal charitable work. Princess Anne moved gracefully through the crowd, her conversations with veterans and military leaders flowing naturally from decades of genuine engagement with military causes. Her presence brought credibility and authenticity to the event that reinforced why protocol boundaries served charitable objectives. The veterans responded to her with obvious respect and appreciation for her long-standing commitment to their welfare. The main event proceeded without the family tensions that had dominated preparation discussions. Speeches honored fallen comrades, celebrated recovery successes, and announced new funding for veteran housing programs. Corporate sponsors committed to continued support, influenced partly by the focused royal presence that demonstrated genuine institutional commitment rather than ceremonial obligation. As the formal gala concluded, guests moved to the private reception where Laura Lopes waited with a mixture of anticipation and nervousness. Her first substantial interaction with veteran causes would be observed by family members and charity leaders, making her performance crucial for establishing credibility and demonstrating that the compromise solution had been worthwhile. William watched approvingly as Laura engaged in thoughtful conversations about arts-based therapy programs with veteran families. Her professional expertise in art curation translated naturally into discussions about cultural preservation projects that could provide meaningful work for veterans transitioning to civilian life. The informal setting allowed for genuine exchanges that would have been impossible during the formal ceremony. Camilla observed her daughter's interactions with pride and relief, seeing that Laura was making positive connections that could lead to meaningful long-term involvement in veteran causes. The compromise arrangement was proving successful in creating opportunities for family participation without compromising the institutional requirements that William had insisted upon maintaining. 1. Particularly meaningful conversation developed between deceased Laura and Maria Rodriguez, a veteran who had lost her sight in Afghanistan and was working to establish art therapy programs for other wounded servicemen. Laura's knowledge of adaptive techniques for visual arts engagement sparked immediate interest from Maria, who saw potential for collaboration on innovative rehabilitation programs. Never expected to find someone who understood both the therapeutic potential of art and the practical challenges of adapting programs for different abilities, Maria told Laura enthusiastically. Your background could really help us develop programs that serve veterans with various types of injuries, not just those we currently reach. This connection demonstrated exactly the kind of outcome William had hoped the compromise would achieve. Laura was finding genuine ways to contribute to veteran causes, based on her actual expertise, rather than simply appearing at events because of her family connections. The arrangement was creating opportunities for substantive involvement that served both charitable objectives and family inclusion. Desires King Charles circulated between both the main reception and the private gathering, pleased to see that his family had successfully navigated the protocol challenges without creating lasting divisions. The evening demonstrated that royal charitable work could evolve to include extended family members while maintaining the traditional effectiveness that had made royal patronage valuable to charitable organizations. The media coverage of the evening focused appropriately on veteran issues and the substantial fundraising success rather than family dynamics or protocol arrangements. Royal correspondents noted the positive veteran response to the royal support and the significant commitments made by corporate sponsors, validating William's emphasis on maintaining charitable focus. Several veteran organization leaders privately expressed appreciation for the thoughtful approach to royal participation, noting that the main event's focused character had enabled meaningful conversations about specific program needs, while the private reception had allowed for broader engagement with potential supporters. The 2-2 approach was being considered as a model for future royal charitable events. Laura's successful introduction to veteran causes led to invitations for follow-up meetings with several organizations interested in developing arts-based programs. Her calendar began filling with consultations about therapeutic art initiatives, cultural preservation projects involving military history, and educational programs for military families. The compromise had opened doors to genuine involvement. Rather than ceremonial appearances, the Veterans Gala became a case study within royal circles for managing family inclusion while preserving institutional protocols. William's leadership during the difficult preparation period was noted by other family members as evidence of his readiness for increased responsibilities and his ability to balance competing interests without abandoning core principles. Princess Anne's guidance throughout the situation had proven invaluable in helping William develop diplomatic solutions that served multiple objectives simultaneously. Their collaboration strengthened their professional relationship and established patterns of consultation that would benefit future decision-making challenges as William prepared for his role as king. The evening's success also validated Camilla's belief that her family could contribute meaningfully to royal charitable work when given appropriate opportunities. Laura's positive reception and genuine connections with veteran causes demonstrated that extended family members could add value to royal service without compromising institutional integrity or charitable effectiveness. As guests departed Windsor Castle, the consensus was that the event had achieved its charitable objectives while successfully integrating modern family realities with traditional royal protocols. The compromise solution had satisfied competing interests and established a framework for future events that could accommodate both institutional requirements and family inclusion desires. The Veterans Gala had become more than a successful fundraising event. It had demonstrated the monarchy's ability to evolve thoughtfully while preserving the essential characteristics that made royal charitable work effective and meaningful. William's handling of the complex preparation challenges had shown leadership, qualities that would serve him well throughout his future reign, proving that difficult decisions could strengthen rather than divide when approached with wisdom, diplomacy, and commitment to serving larger purposes beyond immediate family interests.